Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Sabbath services. It's a lovely day out here in Ulster. I hope you're having good weather wherever you are. I got a warning email that I would like to show you the picture of, and especially take care of your health so that you don't get this. And it says, beware of the donkey pox.
Yeah.
In other words, beware of the Democrats. Now, the Democrats have turned out to be the party of death and Satan. And someone's going to holler and scream, well, I've been a Democrat all my life. That's too bad. Are you going to continue to be one, or are you going to serve God? Look what happened in the most liberal county in Texas. San Antonio County, Texas. San Antonio, where they have the University of Texas. Shooting, killing 19. Is it still 19, or did it get up to more? Okay. Now, also, it shows this. It shows that evil can come down to a very young age. Remember the incident there in Mark the 9th chapter where the father brought the boy who was possessed. And Jesus said, well, how long has it been this way with him? And he said, since childhood. See, because whenever the family is broken up, you're going to have difficulties at the best. Okay? Because that's exactly what is happening, not only in America, but in nearly all the countries of the world. And that's preparing the way for the coming of Satan's final, grand, wonderful, one world government. Okay? So I don't know about you, but after watching the news of this shooting, and it's been over and over and over and over again, and apparently they had the most incompetent police force in America down there in that little town in Texas. One man who had been trained by the Israelis in how to handle those things, he was sitting in a barber shop getting his hair cut, and he got word that it was happening. He grabbed the shotgun from the barber. The barber probably had that shotgun to protect himself. Okay, so he grabbed the shotgun and went on down and rescued a whole bunch of children while the policemen were quivering in the corner waiting for instructions of what to do. So you see, evil comes in many ways. Now, why is the world so filled with evil? Well, they do the same thing that Adam and Eve did. We're going to choose our own way. Don't tell me what to do. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I've been educated, I know what to do. Well, have a couple generations of that and you have what we have today. The Bible frames it this way. Romans 8 and verse 29, let's turn there. Because there has to be a solution and there has to be hope. And that solution is going to come from God, and the hope is through Jesus Christ. It isn't going to come any other way. Verse 19, for the earnest expectation of the creation itself. So you see, sin has affected the whole universe, really, when you understand it. Is awaiting the manifestation of the sons of God. Now that's us and all of those in the first resurrection, because there will be no permanent solution until Christ returns and the first resurrection takes place and we rule and reign under Jesus Christ and bring in true government, true worship of God, true relationships with each other, true understanding of why people are here. And it won't come until then. In the meantime, we need to prepare and we need to be ready. Yes, they're waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God because the creation was subjected to vanity, and not willingly, but by reason of him who subjected it in hope, in order that the creation itself might be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of God. So that's quite a thing. See? Now, think of this next verse and kind of put yourself in a space capsule. Go around the world and find out, is there any place that's really wonderful and happy and nice and good and kind and without trouble, without crime, without lying, without stealing, and other places without war, and other places without tribal rivalries of cutting off heads and killing your enemies? Huh? Where in the world is there anything that's really, really good? About the only place is with the people of God when we are right with God. Okay? Now notice, verse 22, for we know that all the creation is groaning and travailing together until now. Okay? Now, since we're getting close to Pentecost, notice the next verse. See? So Paul emphasizes it's those of us who will be in the first resurrection that are going to have a major part in correcting all the world's problems. Okay? Verse 23, and not only that, but even we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit. That's something. Also grown within ourselves, awaiting the sonship, the redemption of our bodies. So this is what we need to have. Now I start here from this point of view, because if you just listen to the news, you get all depressed. And then they show all the mothers crying. Well, that's a sad thing, and of course they're crying. They lost their children. What do you expect them to do? Okay? And then along comes a politician and says, we will fix it. Huh. Show me one politician who has fixed anything, except the tax code to take more. And in the tax code that Biden got through Congress this last time, guess what? The maximum amount they allow for deduction for charitable institutions is $300. The Democrats and Biden are God haters, Christ haters, and haters of those who are good. And they are deliberately setting out to destroy this nation. Now, I don't know if we can last until 2024. And everybody's hoping, well, at 2024 we'll get Trump in again. How do you know he wants to run again? Nobody knows anything except this. Those of us within the churches of God, we need to stay close to God, and we need to also repent like the rest of the world, but in a greater, more profound way, because God is depending upon us to grow and change and overcome so we can become part of the solution and not be part of the problem. And I know it's easy to become part of the problem because of all the difficulties that go on. You cannot help but get depressed watching the news and all of that going on. So let's come to Proverbs 29. Verse 15 labels the cause of the problem in Texas. Right here. See? If only they could teach into school. They don't have to bring in the whole Bible, because they won't allow that. Oh, we can't have the Bible. We can't have God. So what does God say? You don't want me? I'll just step back and let you have it. Now, after a generation or two, how do you like it? Okay? And how many of you are afflicted with the donkey pox? Okay? All right? Verse 15, the rod and rebuke gives wisdom, but a child left to himself. And that's what they found out was with this shooter. Just a boy. Bring shame to his mother. Now, why doesn't it say father? Because the mother, let's just stop and look at the difference. Okay? God designed it this way. Male and female, there are no other genders. That's donkey pox. Okay? Okay? Maybe that's what happens when you cohabit with donkeys. I don't know. But anyway, why does it say mother? Because their father and mother, they come together. And we'll cover a little bit about what it means to be born and how God worked that all out. Okay. And all of us came from virtually nothing. Can't see it to the naked eye. So why get all lifted up in vanity and all this sort of thing, because that won't do any good. Okay? And then the baby is given life. Bang. Okay? Born. And there is no shortage of baby formula. Mothers have built-in milk factories. God made it that way. See? So now that the formula is stopped, all of these selfish women who don't want to breastfeed, see? Now what happens with breastfeeding? Oh, you get to hold your baby and love it. And the baby gets to love you and connect with you. Okay? And that's the most important thing. See? And the baby gets all the immunity from all the diseases that mother has by nursing. See? Oh, but these pediatricians know more. Give them baby food. Well, what does that amount to? That's mostly from soy. So, you get feminine boys, because there's a lot of estrogen in soy, and you get big fat women. Too much estrogen. Okay? Oh, but we got to work. We got to have a job. Well, Satan has set the society up that way so he can destroy the family. He's done a pretty good job, wouldn't you say? Next, this comes right afterwards. It follows right along. See? When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases. Is that not true? Now look at it. No one wants to be a policeman anymore, but a policeman is not there to stop crime. Where do you stop crime? It starts with the mother nursing the baby and taking care of the baby and teaching the baby yes and no. Right? The very first word that a child needs to understand is no. And understand what it means. And the mother is there with the child all the time. Well, I don't want to be stuck at home. Well, then why did you have the baby? All right? See? Too many selfish women out there thinking that they can do better. We want to be important. Oh, it's boring staying at home and taking care of kids. Well, how do you like living in a society that you have no safety in, where you're supposed to go to work so you get your glory working outside of the home? Okay? So now women, don't get mad at me for attacking you. I'm just describing what's going on. See? All right? But the righteous shall see their fall. Here is what to do. Verse 17. See? Now, concerning children, I'll tell you all this right now. Don't send them to any public school or private school if you don't check out that private school. Do home schooling. They can learn from kindergarten to PhD right at home. Now, we had a wonderful family with us here, but they moved to Oklahoma to get away from all of the perverseness of the donkey pox gender problems in school. Okay? Okay? And one man made a comment to a woman about what this right-hand man of Klaus Schmidt, his name is Harari, Uvalde Noah Harari. He said, in 50 years, there will be no genders. Now, how are you going to do that? And even in Congress, they're trying to introduce laws so they can get the government to help pay for men having children. Huh? Now think about how perverse that is. Okay? That is an amazing thing indeed. Okay? So here we have it. If you have mother at home teaching the children, isn't that the most important time for them to learn? Oh, but I can get a job where I can make lots of money. Really? Will that be enough to pay for all the difficulties that you have with a child because you have to go to work? Huh? Count the cost. All right? Verse 17. Correct your son, and he shall give you rest. Yea, he shall give delight to your soul. Because you'll have rest. You ever had to deal with a rebellious teenage girl? I mean, look at the movie that they have out now. Girls Gone Wild. What does that mean? Well, I'll let you use your own imagination. That can't be a good thing. What about all the girls who see that? Huh? And they say, okay, let's have a slumber party. What are they going to do in the slumber party? Huh? See? Because Satan knows this. If he can destroy the purpose of women and mothers, infants and children, he can control the society. So there we have it. Okay. Now notice, with God's way, here it is. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Is that not what's happening here? But happy is he who keeps the law. Okay? Now then, let's look at some important things for us to realize here. Let's come back to Psalm 8. Very important psalm. Unfortunately, in most translations, not translated properly. But how many people in the world know this? You talk about a vision. You talk about a goal. You talk about something to really live for and put your whole being into. It's right here. See? Because God has not gone way off somewhere in the universe and left us all alone. One man asked me, well, how can I get close to God? I said, well, as close as your knees are to the floor. See? Because you can be in contact with God. Okay? Let's pick it up here, verse 1, Psalm 8. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings you have ordained strength because of your adversaries to silence the enemy and the avenger. Now that's a prophecy of Christ. Right there. Now verse 3. We've all done this. And I've mentioned this before. But you see, there are certain things we need to do on a regular basis. See? Here it is. When I consider your heavens. Now, we're able to see more about what the heavens are like than any other generation in the history of the world. See? The work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained. And you look at all that vastness and you see all of that. And remember what was the covenant with Abraham. What did God tell Abraham? He said, come on out here. Look at the stars. And number them if you can count them. So shall your seed be. Those are the glorified sons and daughters of God that go all the way back to Abraham. See? That's an amazing thing, isn't it, huh? Think about thinking on that. What is mine that you're mindful of him? Well, he's mindful of us because he's made us in his image, male and female, right? That's a tremendous thing to understand. See? And the Son of Man that you care for him. Now notice verse 5. Okay? Correct translation. Most translations have it, angel instead of God. So let's read it. And I wonder how much better the world would have been if all of these Protestants out there would get off the high horse of the Roman Catholic Sunday and keep the Sabbath and preach the truth about God and tell all the people they're preaching to, see, that you have been made a little lower than God for a great and wonderful purpose. See? There it is. For you have made him a little lower than God, not the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor, and you have made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet that is on the earth. And look at what men can do. Look at the things they can develop. Look at how they can manufacture, that they can make metals, that they can mine for precious stones, that they can carve giant mammoth rocks and move them, and have such a technology of it in past civilizations and moving those large stones that we are dumbfounded. How did they do that? See? But they did. But even if they did, guess what? What caused the problems? Sin and Satan. Always. See? Through every single civilization on the earth. All right? So here's what God has done. All right? Now let's come to Psalm 139 and see how we started out. We started out as a speck of dust. Matter of fact, we have a book called From a Speck of Dust to a Son of God. Why were you born? And if the world really knew why God made us, there would be a whole lot less crime. There would be a whole lot less of all of the nonsense that we have going on in the world today. And remember this, crime stops here. That's where it stops. If you want to prevent crime, you teach children how to behave, how to obey. You teach them that there is a God who loves them, who made them, and he's given them free choice, and he wants to know, what are you going to do with your life? Amazing thing to contemplate. Okay? Psalm 139, right at verse 1. O Lord, you have searched me and have known me. See, now if everyone understood that, God knows us. See? There's no such thing as a secret crime to God. He knows it all, and he has a double provision of never forgetting it. He's given every human being a spirit of man, and it's indelibly written on that spirit of man, so you're going to be held accountable for it one way or the other. But through Christ, you can have forgiveness, and that's it. What we have to go on beyond this. Now notice, you know my sitting down and my rising up. Isn't it amazing how we walk, how we stand, how we sit, you know? Think about everything in your body, okay? Let's just start with the eyeball, okay? Everything in your body was programmed into the genes and chromosomes from your father and your mother. And when you were born into the world, and I've been there where all of our children are born, first thing you do is you look and see, is everything there? Okay? You can only see what's on the outside. But think about what's on the inside. You got the eyes, you got the ears, you have the nose, you have the throat, you have the tongue, you have the esophagus, you have the stomach, you have the liver, you have the spleen, okay? You have the gallbladder, okay? Then you have the small intestine, you have the large intestine, you have the sex organs, you have the hands, you have the feet, and you're happy. It's all there. Now, why do they make babies cry as soon as they're born? Huh? Yes. They've been in a watery environment, and when you're born physically, that's when you are born of the flesh and of the water. Boom! That explains John 3rd chapter. Okay. When you're in that watery environment, you can't breathe because you drown. So, God doesn't have you breathing. But you partake of, while you're in your mother's womb, the breath of air, because your mother is breathing and it gets into the bloodstream, and the bloodstream goes down to the placenta, and then the oxygen from her blood goes into the blood of the baby developing in her womb, and the baby partakes of the breath of life through the mother. But that's secondary. You have to take it first. Okay? So in order to live now in an environment that's not full of water, you have to be able to breathe. So, a couple swats on the rear end, and the baby cries and cries and cries. What's the baby doing? Filling out the lungs. Filling out the lungs. Okay? And then the baby's real hungry, and mother's got a lot of milk. Okay? All of that. You know my sitting down and rising up. You understand my thoughts afar off. You measure my going about and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Okay? He got figured out how you're going to be before he ever made Adam and Eve. And there is not a word in my tongue, but lo, O Lord, you know it all together. See? What does it explain in one of the other Proverbs? No thought can be withheld from God. Okay? What does that mean? No thought can be withheld from God. He knows it. That's why he's given repentance. Because all thoughts are not good thoughts. Matter of fact, a lot of thoughts are pretty bad thoughts. And as a matter of fact, going up with kids, a lot of thoughts are foolish thoughts. And mom and dad have to be there to correct them, to show them the right way. Okay? All right, verse 5. You have enclosed me behind and in front, and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too high. I cannot attain unto it. See? How does God know all of that? Well, even with our modern technology, we can have a little inkling of it, but we really don't know. Okay? So he says here, now think about this. And if everyone understood this with human nature, verse 7, where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Okay? If I go in heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in a grave, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the furthest part of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely darkness shall cover me, and the light around me shall be night. Even darkness does not hide from you, and the night shines as the day. As is the darkness, so is the light to you. for you have possessed my reins. Now that's quite an interesting statement. None of the commentaries have been able to figure it out, and the best we can figure it out is this. Okay? Now it says there, Revelation 2:26, that Christ says, I try the reins and the heart. What are the reins? The reins, I believe, is the way that God created our minds with the spirit of man so that at any time he can know what we're thinking, what we're doing, and also at any time he can inspire us, he can lead us, he can encourage us. Okay? Now that's the best we can figure out from that. Okay. Now continuing, and you have knit me together in my mother's womb. Now that's quite an interesting statement, isn't it? Yeah. And you know that by the time you're 6 weeks old in the womb, you are a miniature you, having nearly all your parts in 6 weeks. Right there. Now you understand why God hates abortion. Verse 14, I will praise you, for I am awesomely and wonderfully made. Your works are marvelous, and my soul knows it very well. My substance was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and intricately formed in the lowest parts of the earth. Now that's lowest parts of the earth are just a synonym for the mother's womb. Okay? But isn't that interesting? My substance. Now, when you're first conceived, you are that substance. Okay, we'll talk about this in just a little bit because this becomes important. Okay? Yeah, that's interesting. When I was made in secret, intricately formed in the lowest parts of the earth. Okay? Now, a woman doesn't know she's pregnant for about 6 weeks. So the baby is already there. And all of this that we just read has been going on within her, and she doesn't know. Now that's quite an amazing thing, okay? Your eyes did see my substance, yet being unformed, and in your book all my members were written. Now, scientists call this the genome. In other words, the written book of what they've been able to find out about genes and chromosomes, they call the human genome. And now they think they've gotten to the point that they understand it so much that now then we're going to have post-humans. We're going to enhance them with computer chips and all these modern technologies, and we will make better humans than God. Guess what? When they do, it's going to be worse. I just read where they ran an experiment, it was the little hamsters, that the scientists figured this: if we take this gene and remove it, then hamsters will be more friendly, and they'll be wonderful pets for kids, and we'll sell many more hamsters and make lots of money. But what happened? It didn't work that way. The hamsters became more vicious, aggressive, and killers. Have a nice little pet, my darling. Never happened, okay? All right. Your eyes did see my substance yet unformed, and in your book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned when it was yet none of them. Oh, how precious are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. Isn't that amazing? All right, now let's come to the book of Jeremiah chapter 1. Let's look at this now. Just conceived. Okay? Because people ask, well, because we'll read in Ephesians a little later, something from the foundation of the world. And it seems to say that God knew us before we were formed from the foundation of the world, but that's not what it means. Okay? And here we have God's own definition. Like David said, you saw my substance unformed. Okay? Now, let's pick it up here in verse 4, chapter 1. And it came to pass, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. That could only refer to the very instant that he was conceived in his mother's womb. Because you are not a person when one set of the chromosomes come from father and one set of the chromosomes come from mother, and they are not joined in conception. You don't exist. You're just part of the bodily function of your father or your mother at that particular time. Okay? But when you are conceived, you're not formed. But when you are conceived, God knows you. You understand that? See? It's not way back before the ages of anything ever came to be that you were somehow a speck of something somewhere that God had in a bottle placed waiting for the creation to take place. See? No, God made it clear. Before you were formed. He didn't say before you were conceived. I just said before you were formed. So that means he knew him right at the instant of conception that he was the one he was going to choose to be the prophet to warn the children of Israel and Judah. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break and we'll come back.